This, in many ways, is really India's moment in the sun, a chance for the nation to step back and say it's ready, able to be a world leader in AI. So tell me how this came about, and what does India really hope to garner from this summit?
Look, this is an arms race right now between the US and China. And India, they're trying to say, okay, don't forget about us. Could we be the number three player? Think about what's going on in the Middle East as well in terms of, UAE, and you're seeing obviously a lot of the data centers built there. So for India, it's a very important week. It's for them to establish not just a framework, but let's just talk the reality for them to try to get investment in the country from AI leaders. I mean, that at the end of the day is really what they're focused on.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. China and the United States, clearly the acknowledged world leaders at this point in AI. But India, with its educational system, has a small army of engineers, researchers, brilliant people coming out of colleges. How important is this to them? What role will they play? And what is the Prime Minister Modi's takeaway to this point?
Look, major engineering talent, which obviously that's one of the biggest assets that they have in India. Look, for Modi, he's basically saying, look, we're open for business. Like this is something from an infrastructure perspective. Now's the time to invest in India. And you've seen this. Look, if you look at Apple and other companies that have now started to invest significantly in India, but now's the time because the reality is, think about all these CEOs that are coming. They have choices where they can invest. And that's why this summit comes at a very important time for India in terms of the investment. Microsoft and others have already invested. But that's really what Modi is focused on here.
Yeah, and Dan, the summit, as we've talked about, attracting leaders from all around the world and some of the top executives in AI. There were some hiccups today, some lines, difficulty getting in. I imagine you chalk that up to growing pains. But talk about the significance of what's being held and its importance on the global South as a whole.
Look, I mean, the most important thing is that they're hosting it. It puts them on the stage. If you go back over the years, look, India, it's been start and stop for many companies, right? In terms of, given a lot of the logistical issues, infrastructure, some of the complex taxes in terms of some of the, different provinces. So, this is a very important time for India to basically lay the groundwork why to invest in this country because of AI. And I think that's really what's happening. And because this is a two-horse race, US and China. And India wants to make sure they're not on the outside looking in.
Okay, a two-horse race at this point. How does it square with what China and the United States are doing? To what degree are they keeping an eye out on what's going on in New Delhi? And lastly, the EU, because the EU has really tried to beat its chest a bit, showing, hey, we're out here as well. We have brilliant minds, we have money, and we have infrastructure. Don't forget about us.
Yeah, but the problem with the EU, there's a lot of red tape, thick red tape, right? I mean,
yeah, we've seen that.
That's why they are years behind when it comes to AI. If you're a startup in EU, you almost have to move to Middle East, Asia, or US. Look, I think for US and China, they're keeping an eye out because they want India to obviously build out, but they also want to make sure that those investment dollars come into their country. So it comes down to partnerships. Now, obviously, there's been some tension, US and India. How does China play? And you see representatives there. So this is all a balancing act for India.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the most important thing for Modi in India is basically saying, like, when it comes to the trillions being spent in AI, we want our piece.
I like that term, the balancing act in India, because some very powerful speakers are going to be talking over the next several days, Alphabet and OpenAI CEOs. What kind of expectations can we expect for? What are we going to hear them say?
Look, they're going after engineering talent. They want to play a role. I mean, just when you think about the population opportunities and the monetization opportunities in India in terms of the build out. But for them, they're taking baby steps, right? They're trying to figure out, like, do they make significant investments? Microsoft's done it. I mean, look, Apple, not necessarily on AI, but they're clearly ahead there. So that's why it's very important that Sundar and Altman, Anthropic, and others are there. It speaks volumes that they're actually there at the summit shows the importance of it.